Talk about.
What are Planned Parenthood's priorities in this debate?
I think the most important thing for us has been to make sure that women's health care is a priority. We have, it's interesting because women pay much more out of pocket for health care than men do, and I think have particular concerns, particularly about pre-existing conditions and sort of the discrimination in the insurance industry sometimes about women's health care. So our real focus has just been to make sure that women's full reproductive health care gets covered, and that women can go to providers of their choice once healthcare reform, assuming healthcare reform passes. It's never an easy issue, but I think this is the right president, and he's putting the energy into I think making the changes we've been needing to make for a long time.
How much of a priority is the public option to your organization?
We've supported the public option. I don't think it hasn't been our primary focus. We've really been more focused on two issues. One is to make sure, again, that women's reproductive health care is part of healthcare reform and that women's health is a priority, and the second, that making sure that women can go to their provider of choice.
And on the front lines where you're working, what have we learned about abstinence-based sex education?
Well, so there's a difference between abstinence-based and abstinence-only. So I think here's what we've learned about abstinence-only, which is a program that is basically simply says don't become sexually active, and really only focuses on the failure rates of condoms and birth control. And what we found, and actually the CDC did come out with a report finally this summer that really links sort of what's happened as a result of that enormous investment that was made in the last 8 years, and some really pretty terrible health outcomes for young people. What we found is it doesn't work. And every impartial study from Congress, from universities, say not telling young people information it neither keeps them from being sexually active, nor does it help them once they do become sexually active from either getting pregnant or getting an infection. Planned Parenthood is a big supporter of comprehensive sex education that includes abstinence, because as a parent of teenagers, I'll tell you that I think that's a great option, and I would love for more teenagers to choose that option. But at some point, kids are going to become sexually active, whether they're teenagers or later on, and so we've got to take this opportunity to tell them. Teach them about contraception. Look, I think sex is controversial. I know when I grew up in Dallas, we had some sex education in schools. The only thing we could see on TV that had anything to do with sex was Rob and Mary Petrie were married. They didn't even sleep in the same bed, I don't think, right? That was sort of what we saw. My kids, right, they're watching, whether it's Gossip Girls, the OC, you name it. Sex is everywhere, and yet we are so hung up as a country. We can't have an open and honest conversation about as just sort of a normal part of growing up. So we will. It's just part of life. But I think as a country, we have the messages we're given, and I think frankly the last 8 years in the federal government pretty much given, which is just don't have sex, and that's not what kids are seeing. And so it's hard for parents, I think, even to feel comfortable.
And your mother was such a shy, shrinking violet that the chances of you learning about this at home were nil. But even back then, that was a tough conversation.
Absolutely.
Even for Ann Richards?
I wouldn't even, God rest her soul. My mom did a lot of good things. I would not say that she was totally prepared to have these conversations with me or with my brothers or sister. And look, it's hard for all of us as parents. I just don't think we were given a lot of tools or support for having it. And that's, we do great programs here in Austin. We do them around the country of literally just parent education. Parents come to us and say, I really want to do the right thing. I want to talk to my kids. Point me in the right direction.